Hi, good evening to all. It's so good to see so many people interested in design thinking. For anyone who is starting their business or developing a product, having knowledge of design thinking is important. Design thinking can help you save time and find more creative solutions for your customers' need. This is why we bring you this webinar on design thinking. First, I will give a brief introduction of our organizers and then our speaker. This webinar is organized by Vizag Industrial Scan, TIE Andhra Pradesh, and AP Innovation Society. AP Innovation Society is nodal agency of government working on development of startup ecosystem in the state. TIE Andhra Pradesh is a network of industrialists and entrepreneurs focusing on nurturing next generation of entrepreneurs. And Vizag Industrial Scan is industrial and business newspaper which has been promoting Andhra Pradesh as industrial destination for over 2 decades. Today, as our speaker, we have Mr. Chirag Gujrati. He is in head of programs at Midas India, which is School of Entrepreneurship. He has mentored students in the field of entrepreneurship, marketing, and strategy at renowned institutions. He has also been a visiting faculty at various prestigious institutions with speaking engagements about startups and entrepreneurship. He also has 3 startup ventures under his belt. Now, before giving the stage to our speaker, I will just inform everyone that if they have any questions, they can put their question in the question section next to the chat on your screen, and we will try to take up your questions during the Q&A sessions. Now I invite Mr. Chirag to please take the stage and share his knowledge with us.
Okay, thanks very much, Viresh. It's great to be amongst the aspiring entrepreneurs, and thank you for this opportunity to interact with a lot of people who want to learn and know what design thinking is all about. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spend about 45 minutes, approximately 45 minutes, in sharing my understanding and experience of design thinking, and how it has helped me help a lot of startups and organizations. And also, I'll share the design thinking process, a brief design thinking process, which anybody can use to come up with some sort of innovative products, services, processes, business models, could be anything. So I'm going to share my presentation, but if you have any questions, you can, as Viresh mentioned, you can type it in your questions section. And if you want to share anything, if you agree, disagree, have any comments on what I'm, mentioning about, you can please type it in your chat box as well. So let me start. I'll share my screen and. Okay, so I'll switch my camera off so that you can focus on the presentation. Can you all please just say yes or no whether you can see my presentation or not? Yes?
Not yet. Uh, can you try again sharing it? We have not seen it yet.
Okay. Is it live now?
Not yet.
Okay, so it's live from here. Let me know when you can see that so that I'll start immediately.
Okay.
Then others see the presentation, maybe in the participants group. If you can just type in yes in the chat so that we know whether you can see the presentation or not. Can you see now? Yes, Viresh?
Yes, yes. We can see it now.
Okay, great. So, what I'm gonna do, as I said, is I'll take your 45 minutes, and I'll promise I'll not take more than that. Of course, if the discussion goes well, you are free to ask as many questions as possible because I like to make it more interactive. I'd like to answer your questions, specific to your idea or business or startup, rather than just giving you gyan as to what it is. So let me start by saying this, asking a few questions. What do you think design is? Forget about design thinking. In your opinion, what is design thinking? What do you think is design? If you can type it in your chat box, I'll be. Yes, are we all there? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. There was a lag in between, but you're audible.
Great. Okay, so I can see a few answers: shape, size, weight of any product to put a proper shape to an idea, for materializing it, converting idea to real world. Of course. So all these answers are right. Um, in most cases, when we talk about a design, for example, when we go for shopping, and I want to buy a new shirt, what do I look for? New designs. You want to buy a car, what do you look for? A design. You want to buy a new cell phone, what do you look for? A new design. You want to buy your next coffee mug, what do you look for? Design. Right? The world is looking for design. Unfortunately, most of us, we think design is the only outer layer of the product, right? However, when we talk about design, design is also not the outer layer, but also the how the product functions. If I'm buying a phone, I don't just look at how it looks, but I also look at how it functions, right? So that's design thinking. Design thinking is human centered way of designing solutions. What is human centered? Human centered is when you are trying to solve a problem for a real user rather than first creating a product and then you go find the users. Most common mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make, or those who are aspiring entrepreneurs they make, is they first build the products, then they find users, and then they try to sell the products to users who may or may not need them. Whereas design thinking helps you go reverse. Design thinking first helps you identify the users, those users who are using the product or a service, what problems they are going through. So rather than building a product, we are actually identifying a problem, and for that problem we are creating a solution. With that solution, we go to the people who are facing the problem, we ask them whether they are okay with the solution or not, whether they accept this solution or not. And if these people accept the solution, we go ahead and design a full-fledged product. Now, I'm going to share a few stories because design thinking is best explained with stories. Okay. Um, Now, let me. So before I start, Videsh has mentioned about me. So my majority of the time goes with aspiring entrepreneurs and startups in building products, processes, and models. I'll just explain what design thinking is. It's a human centric approach to solving complex business problems. Now, a lot of people use design thinking for any problem. Now, my take on design thinking is it's a way of life. It's not a tool, it's not a technique. It's an approach. It's a lifestyle, right? Design thinking is not only limited to come up with innovative products and services. Design thinking can be used to solve any complex business, social, political, environmental, economical problems. That's design thinking. And once you fall in love with design thinking, you actually start using it for everything that you do in life. Let me share this with you. And this image, what do you think this image is
Chirag,
about?
yeah,
Is
sorry,
the
we are not able to see your presentation. Can you try sharing it
Okay?
again?
Yeah. Yes. Is it back?
Yes, it is back.
So I want to ask participants as to what is this image? What do you see in this image? You can type in your answers in the chat box. Looks like there are two planes. There's something that connects two planes. Some process happens. Like to
Hi,
know
Chirag.
what you feel.
Can you try resharing it again because it's not visible?
Image, is it visible now?
No. Can you send me the presentation and I will try sharing it from my side?
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
just a second. Seems to be. Here it shows that it's sharing. Let me stop sharing. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Now we can see it.
Okay, let me share it with you in email, and then we can start from there. Just a second. Sharing it. And I'll also try from this end again. Is it visible now? Can you see it?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, great. So let me continue. So and you'll also get it in your email, Viresh. I've already shared it.
Yeah.
So I've I was asking about this image. What do you think about this image? What do you see? What is happening here? You can type it in your chat box and share what your understanding is of this image. Anyone? Any guess? Fuel filling? Yes. Mid-air refueling? Absolutely. So, what is happening here is you are absolutely right. It's mid-air refueling, and the way businesses are happening right now. You know, you don't have if you have a startup, if you run a startup, if you are in the business, you don't have the luxury of time to land your plane. Uh, if there is a problem, you can land your plane and then come up with something new, or stop your. So why we are showing this is that in mid-air refueling is required because the plane has to keep flying, the plane cannot come down. Similarly, for business, you have to keep innovating while you are in the business. You can't stop or shut your business and close down, and for 6 months you think, as if I want to do something new, let me close my business and let me start again. No. So of course it saves time and a lot of things students are mentioning about, but the most important thing here is that businesses, the startups, have to keep innovating over and over again. They have to keep innovating. Innovation is not just once and then you don't innovate for the rest of your life or the rest of your business life. No. Let me share a wonderful example, or a story. Right, all of you know Nokia. Have you heard of this company called Nokia? Yes. Yes. If I ask this, I think there are about 60 people here, 60, 65 people here. If I ask you, I mean, if I take you 20 years back in the year 2001, right, or even in that matter 15 years back in 2004 5, and if I ask you a question, how many of you use Nokia phone? Let's say if there are 100 people, and if I were to ask this question in 2004 2005, how many of you use Nokia phone? How many people do you think would be using Nokia phone out of 100? Approximately. Somebody says 50. Anyone? Any other guesses? 15 years back, when there was no iPhone, how many people would be using Nokia phone? 80, so 50, 60, 70, 80. Most of them, absolutely. Somebody said 100%. Well, very, very close. About 96% of the people would be using Nokia phone if we were sitting in the year 2004 or 2005. Today, if I ask you the same question, how many of you use, or how many out of 100 people use Nokia phone today in 2020? What is your guess? One? Well, that's too harsh on Nokia. One, 25%. Yeah. So approximately 4 to 4.5% of people use Nokia phone today. Right? The reason is the company that had 90% market share in the year 2004 2005 has 4% market share. It's completely reversed. Why? because there was a time where Nokia felt that what we offer is the best, there is nothing else can be offered. They thought that they can only innovate in terms of design meaning outer look of the product. There was no innovation in terms of internal functionality of the product. They were coming up with new models, but the technology remained same. You had square models, rectangle models, linear models, heavier models, but then the functionality remained same. Whereas on the other side, a lot of companies like Apple, companies like Samsung, they started using design thinking as an approach to innovate. They kept user in the process. They involved the users of the business in the innovation process, understood their problems and needs, designed new phones, and there was a smartphone that was launched in the year end of 2005. 2006 is when we had our first iPhone. Since then, Nokia has become a dinosaur. Companies like Apple, companies like Infosys, companies like Airbnb, companies like um, uh, Boeing, and so on and so forth. Samsung, multiple companies. Most of the Fortune 500 companies are now using design thinking to keep innovating their products, services, processes, and business models. That is why I'm showing this picture that companies today, we live in an environment where if you don't innovate today, somebody else will, and you will be out of the market. If you want to remain buoyant, if you want to remain afloat in the market, you have to keep innovating. And design thinking enables you to keep innovating. Now let's look at some of the aspects of design thinking, how you can actually practice design thinking. What we can do in 20 minutes or half an hour today, it's like I can give you a manual, right? I can give you some steps or a manual or a roadmap as to how you can use design thinking. But actually design thinking is like bicycle. I can give you a 100-page manual. You can study the manual, you will still not be able to ride the bicycle. When you will be able to ride the bicycle, when you get onto the bicycle, fall a couple of times, learn how to keep your balance, and then slowly you will start learning bicycle. You will remove the side wheels and then you will be able to balance. Same with design thinking. You can learn what it is in 45 minutes, 1 hour, or 2 hours. If you want to apply it, practice it. If you don't practice it, it will remain here. It will never come into practice. You will never be able to innovate something. So let me take you through a journey of design thinking. Okay. So this is what it is. Companies like IBM, Infosys, Intuit, Lego, Marriott, Samsung, GE, Fidelity, Airbnb, Google, all these companies use design thinking. And the research shows that in design-led firms, 78, more than three-fourths of the companies have felt that for them, it is easier to innovate when they use design thinking. Now let's get on to the design thinking bicycle now. There are two terms: innovation and invention. Design thinking helps you with innovation, and your research helps you with invention. Why innovation and why invention? Why we want innovation and why we can leverage invention? The difference between invention and innovation is innovation can be commercialized. This is my opinion, right? Everybody can have their own opinion. But innovation can be commercialized, whereas invention cannot, right? What we use today, the mobile phones, everybody uses mobile phone. Now, it was not innovated in the year 1995 when Motorola started commercializing the phone. The mobile phone have been, have the defense, the forces, the militaries, the armies of the worlds have been using mobile phones 20, 30 years prior to when it got commercialized first. So it still was there in the year 1970s and 80s. but we didn't know how to use it. Why? Back then it was only invention. Today it is innovation. So when we talk about design thinking, I'm going to help you understand the process. Now there are multiple, authorities on design thinking process. IDEO is one, HP is another, IBM is third company that owns or has its own design thinking process. Stanford University Design School has its own design thinking process. All the processes, some processes have 4 steps, some processes have 5, some processes have 6 or 7 or 8 steps. At the end of the day, it all centers around users, what you as the user want. So for our reference, we are going to use design thinking process designed by um, Stanford Design School. It's quite simple, 5-stage process. 5-stage process is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Now, I don't want to burden you with. Let me continue with uh, without the video, because it seems like the connection is weak. Okay, so the first step of design thinking is empathy. Empathy is nothing but putting yourself in the shoes of your users, understanding what your users go through uh, when they are interacting with the product. For example, if you want to come up with a mug or a new coffee, right? Um, you need to ask the users, you need to ask people who consume coffee the problems that they face of having coffee. For example, if you can see me, I'm having a coffee, right? You ask me, how do you like this coffee? And my response is, you know what? I like this coffee. What I'm saying is I like the coffee, but my expressions shows that I hate this coffee. Then you ask me the question, would you like to have another cup of coffee, tomorrow, the same coffee? I would say, you know what, I'm gonna get my own coffee from home. This means that I don't like this coffee. Even if I say I like this coffee, I don't like this coffee. So the first thing you need to do is to understand what your users go through. Customer is, see, people say, people have been saying customer is king. Of course, customer is king, but you need to treat the king like uh, the spy. The company is the spy. So you need to observe your customer so well that you not only listen to what he or she says, but you also see, you also observe what they think about your product, what they feel about your product. I might say that I love this coffee, but when I say about the coffee, it doesn't show on my face that I love this coffee. That means that I might be okay with the coffee, but I don't love it. There's still some room for improvement. So that's empathy. You actually need to put yourself in the shoes of your customers. And you can do that with empathy map. If you can see this on your screen, when you interact with your customer, and if you are graduate students or graduating students, engineers, BCom, BBAs, when you are doing your market research, please, please, please do not do your questionnaire and send it out in your WhatsApp and emails. This is a criminal waste of time. Why? Because when you send out questionnaires and when you send out emailers, you miss out on your users' expressions. And most important is that in many cases, we actually are not sending our questions to the right audience. What if I'm, talking about a coffee, and I by mistake send this to all my WhatsApp groups where there is only 30% coffee, people who consume coffee. Baki ke log, they are not consuming coffee. I'm actually wasting my time. I'm sending it to the right, wrong audience. So, for whatever you are developing, your product, your idea, your solution, your service, for everything, the first thing is to identify your user. Where does your user live? What does he do? What is the lifestyle? Where can you find the user? What is the education level? What is the income level? What is the relationship status? What is the marital? There are so many things you need to think about before you reach out with your questions to your users. And I have been teaching in multiple universities and colleges, and this is the problem I face every time. That college students, when they are doing their research, they just send out questionnaires randomly. No, in design thinking, you must identify your audience first. Who are the people who are facing problems? You can create a user persona and then use this empathy map. Ask them questions. What do they feel when they are talking about the product? What do they think when they are thinking about the product? What are they saying about the product? I might say that I love this coffee, but the way with which I say I love this coffee is pathetic. Means that I don't love this coffee, but so that you don't feel bad, I'm saying I love this coffee. Say, you also need to observe what they do when they interact with the product. Right? So that's empathy map. Create an empathy map for your product and service for your users. When you do that, you are ready with exactly, you will be able to identify what exact pain points, what are the real problems of your customers. So create this empathy map, and then you move to the stage 2 of design thinking, which is define what? The most important thing. And this is where all of us make a mistake, including me, including everyone. The most important thing in designing a product or the service or process or model is that we need to identify the real problem. Right? Let me share a story with you, and I'm going to ask you uh, a question. So there was this husband and wife in a house. The wife sees a mouse in the house, and she shouts and says, calls the husband and says that, listen, there is a mouse in the house. I saw it in the kitchen. I need to get rid of this mouse. I'm really afraid of the mouse. The husband goes to the market, buys a trap. Trap is where you catch the mouse. Puts a small piece of chapati in the mouse, puts it in the kitchen overnight, and then in the morning, what you observe, both of them get up, they go to the market, and they see no mouse in the trap, and they also don't see the roti. However, the same afternoon, the wife finds the second mouse in the house. She starts shouting, screaming. The husband sees the situation, goes to the market, buys the second trap. put two traps in the house because they saw two mice. The next morning, still there are two traps, and there are no chapati or roti pieces in the traps. You know what is happening here? Here, there are two traps. There are still two traps. Next day, they still put the roti. Third day, there are two mice in the two traps. Should they be relieved or should they still be worried? What is your take? What is your opinion? Now that they have caught both the mice are in the traps. Should they be worried or should they be relieved? Will it guarantee that there will be no more mouse in the house again? Is there a guarantee? Can you write your answer? Is there a guarantee that, now that there were two mouse and both of them are caught, should they be relieved, or is there a guarantee there will not be any third mouse? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because they now some of you are saying no, they should not be relieved, and some of you are saying yes, they should be relieved. The problem here is we are addressing the wrong problem. We are solving the wrong problem. Trap is a temporary solution to mouse. Rather, what they should do is they should identify the place from where the mouse is entering the house. Seal that place, which will guarantee there will be no more mouse in the house. So, in most cases, when we develop products, we actually are solving the wrong problem. It is absolutely essential for an entrepreneur to solve the right problem. I might catch the two mice and I might be happy. I have party at home, and then sometimes later on, I see more mice in the house. Meaning, I have solved the problem temporarily, but I am not solving the correct problem. So that's how you define the problem. When you interact with your users, make sure that you identify the right problem. What is the problem? What is the pain point? What you have to define? The user, the customer, the gap between current state and desired state, where they want to be or what kind of product they want and what kind of product they have, what kind of service they want, what kind of service they have, what kind of solutions they want and what kind of solutions they have. If you can bridge the gap between what they have and what they want, you are actually creating something valuable for your users, for which they'll be happy to pay to buy that service. So that's stage number 2, defining the real problem. And to define the problem, you need to ask a question. User, who is your user that you can identify through your empathy map, needs a way to do what? Catch a mouse or stop the mouse entering the house because the mouse eats up all the food in the fridge. So that's how you define your problem. So that's stage 2 of design thinking. First, you identify your users and what problems they go through. Then you define the problem that you want to solve. What are the real problem? Mouse is not the problem. Problem is the hole that is there in the kitchen from where the mouse is entering. That's a problem. Then the third stage, ideation. This is the most interesting stage of ideation. And there are multiple ways you can ideate, right? Can anyone mention the most popular technique of ideation? Anybody? Anyone? Do you know any technique that you can use to ideate? Brainstorming, absolutely. So brainstorming is probably the most popular technique that can be used for ideation. Now, Ideation is when you come up with multiple solutions, multiple ideas for the same problem. Stage one, you have identified the user. Stage two, you have identified problem. Now for that specific problem, you have to come up with multiple solutions. The problem with Indian system of thinking is, now I'm not blaming anyone, but it's how we have all been trained. हमारा ट्रेनिंग ऐसे हुआ है. How we have been trained is, remember when we were in class, when we were in school, when we were in college, universities, for every question they asked you in the exam, you had to write one answer. And if you do not write the answer that is given in your textbook, in your study notes, in your user, whatever you call, your professor gives you notes, if you do not write those answers in the exam, you get a 0. The problem is, you are not you, even I, all of us are not allowed to come up with the answer that we want, or to come up with multiple answers. Simple thing, I this is what I teach. Even I teach this to my son as well, who is a 7-year-old, goes to a primary school. They teach him the question, basic mathematics question, 5 plus 5. How many answers can you get? And how straightforward is the answer? But if I want my son to think creatively and come up with multiple answers for the same question in a different way, meaning I'm going to ask him, blank plus blank equal to 10. How many answers, how many solutions can you come up with? Right? So it's about coming up with solutions and opening up your mind. The biggest problem we face is we tend to judge our solutions before even sharing with anyone. So brainstorming is one idea where you have to come up with as many solutions as possible. Now let me ask you one question. I like asking questions and I like sharing stories, so I'm gonna do that. If your home to your college, the distance is 90 minutes, 30 kilometers. It takes you 90 minutes, and it's 4:40. Let's say it's 5 o'clock, and your next class starts in half an hour. How will you reach, or what is the solution you can come up with? It's 30 kilometers away, which takes 90 minutes in traffic. What would you do? What are the solutions you have? Options? Anything? Put it in the chat box. Bicycle, okay. 30 minutes, 30 kilometers, bicycle, okay. Bike, okay. What else? What else? Ashwini says bicycle or bike. Anybody else? See, that's where sticking to one answer restricts our thought process. Online meeting, absolutely fantastic. Now, the other option is, this is where we think, hoga, nahi hoga, doable, not doable, what will I think, what will people think. Is there an option that you can bunk the class? Now, don't try this at home, okay? But it is an option. It may not be a feasible option. It may be a feasible option. It depends on who you are, what you think about bunking the class. But it is one of the options. So ideation is when you brainstorm, you can't restrict yourself. And I always tell my students, or whenever I work with corporates or teams on ideation, I tell them that give me 5 solutions for this problem for which you might get kicked out from your company or from your class or from your college. Give me the craziest, the most wackiest solutions, because those solutions would probably give you a route where you can innovate. So ideation is, you use brainstorming. There are other options like brain writing. There is mind mapping. There is you also can use six thinking hats, or you can use shoe swap model. There are multiple models. If I start talking about all the models, it will take us another 24 hours. So you use this techniques to come up with multiple ideas. And in my opinion, for each problem, you should at least come up with 100 to 150 ideas, solutions. Don't think about feasibility. Don't think about doability. Don't think about technology, whether it is available, doable, not doable, social, moral, legal, illegal. Don't worry about it. Multiple areas you can, multiple things you can use: brainstorming, mind mapping, and so on and so forth. That's third stage of design thinking. Now, sorry, I'm going too fast, but given the amount of time I have to give you a snapshot of what design thinking. Once you have generated enough solutions for the problem that you have identified, then you have to create a prototype. Now, some of you would know what prototype is, some of you might not know what prototype is. But let me again share a story with you, right? I want to build my dream house. Now I've worked enough number of years and got done enough work, job, entrepreneurship, and startups, and all those things, and got enough money. And now I feel that I want to make my dream house. I go to an architect and I tell the architect that I want to build my dream house, and the dream house is spacious, and the dream house is beautiful. Build my dream house. Do you think the architect will be able to build my dream house the way I have imagined? What do you think? Will the architect be successful? No. He needs specific inputs. Absolutely, absolutely. Most of all of you are right. Why the architect cannot build the house that I can imagine? Because my imagination is different from architect's imagination. That is the importance of prototype in the entire product development, service development, solution development, innovation process. Prototype is considered to be the most important part, the most important stage 4 of prototype. Why? Because if I just and the second option is, if I put a sketch of my dream house, that it looks like this, it has round appearance from the top, looks like a dome, a square from on the ground floor. So when I put the dream house on paper, I'm actually showing the architect that this is how my dream house looks like, and then the architect will be able to come up with a better design. Similarly, for every solution that you design or come up with, you need to create a prototype. Now it could be now this prototype could be as simple as a paper or a cardboard prototype. Just take paper and make something out of it. Just make a wireframe. If you are making an app, just draw a mobile phone and an app, how it will look like on paper. Give idea to your users. Why we create prototype is because the solution that we have thought of the problem, the customers don't know what solutions we are thinking. If they can see, hear, feel, touch the solution that we want to give them, they will be in a better position to tell us whether they like the solution or not. That is the reason we need prototype. In fact, everything is prototype. The car that you drive today is a prototype of car that you will be driving 10 years down the line. The mobile phone that you were using in 2015 was the prototype of mobile phone that you are using today, because everything keeps getting better. So you use multiple ways to create a prototype. It could be a paper prototype, as simple as this. You want to make an app, just make a paper prototype, sketch it, maybe do a 3D prototype, 3D printing, or make a nice video. Sometimes you can make a landing page. In fact, there was a classic example where in Spain, they wanted to launch a new school where they would use, uh, you know, different style of education. So before they established a school, they actually created a landing page in which they described about school, and they sent this out to approximately 10,000 parents. They interviewed about 6,000 parents. They created empathy map, and then most of the parents, about 70% of the people said, if this kind of school can come up, it will be great. We would be happy to put our children in that school. It's called Team Academy in Spain. It's called Team Academy, where people learn, or students learn in teams, not individually. So they created a prototype landing page, and basis landing page, they got validation of their idea, that yes, I've got validation that this kind of solution works, and then they launched the school, which was a major success. Similarly, for your solution or product, create a prototype. Without prototype, I don't think you should move ahead, because your users probably are not aware what you are doing. So multiple ways of prototyping, and once you do prototyping, then there are, if you make a very very small, nice, economical prototype, it's called low fidelity prototypes, where you are at a very early stage of your idea. You just want to check whether there are enough people who face this problem, or who are looking for this kind of solutions. So you create very low fidelity, economical, doesn't take so much time, uh, just a paper prototype sketch, or something very simple. So that's low fidelity. And high fidelity is at a later stage, when you are launching your minimum viable products. You are actually making a functional prototype, how it looks like, how it works, that kind of product. So once you have prototype, you go to the same people you went to when you created your empathy map. So for example, if you went to 500 people, you know those 500 people, you now know their problems. For their problems, you did ideation and came up with multiple solutions, and then out of those solutions, you identified one or two solutions. For those solutions, you created prototypes. Now these prototypes, you will take them to the same 500 people, who will in fact become your first 500 customers, your first 500 users. Isn't it simple? You don't even have to market your product. You will achieve your first 500 customers even before you launch your product. Whatever feedback they give, if they accept the prototype, go ahead and create a beta of the product, create a better version, a fully functional version of the product, and then you can start selling. So that's, test is the last stage. When you create the prototype and test the market, you test with the users, they say yes, we like the product, we like the solution. You then go ahead and create a minimum viable product. You collate the answer, and then you create a minimum viable product, and then you launch it in the market. If they don't like it, you can go back to the ideation stage, identify other solutions, make a prototype. In fact, in some cases, when you are making technology products or other products, you can actually create 2-3 different prototypes and test it with different user groups, and see what kind of prototype is accepted. You call it split testing, A/B testing. There are multiple names that you can use. So that's test phase of the design thinking process. And please remember, once you launch a product, remember the image that I showed you, first image, mid-air refueling. You need to keep innovating. The reason why you have iPhone 1, 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, and there will be number of iPhones that will keep coming is because For every product they launch, they go back to their users and ask them, what else you want? What are your pain points? What are your problems when you use this product? Observe. And that is the reason companies like Google, IBM, Apple, Samsung, Airbnb, Lego, Infosys, multiple companies, they are successful. In fact, most of startups are now using design thinking approach or lean startup approach, where they are it actually helps them save time. Even if you have to fail, you fail at a prototype stage. You don't spend so much time on product and resources and money on product. You fail fast, you fail cheap. So you go out in the market with a prototype. If it doesn't work, come back. It's only a prototype. You have not spent lakhs of the rupees in building the product. So fail fast, fail cheap. Keep your users at the center of everything that you do. In fact, if you have an organization where there are a lot of people leaving the company, there's a lot of attrition. You can actually use design thinking and identify the root cause or the problem why people are leaving, and actually can improve this situation. So it's not only about product, service, or innovation. It's all about solving complex business problems. So that's the 5 stages of what we call the design thinking process. Of course, it happens in loop. Once you do it, it's done for life. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to keep doing it. As I said, it's a loop. You have to keep innovating. You have to keep getting better at what you do. Otherwise, remember the story of Nokia and Apple. Now, what happened to Nokia and what happened to Apple? If you want to be sustainable, keep innovating. If you want to be profitable, keep your users in the process. If you want to be faster, use design thinking approach. So that's design thinking for you. I hope you have had some understanding of the process, and I'll keep the floor open now for questions. If you have any, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Chirag, for a very informative session. Now, although we have crossed the time, but we will definitely take a couple of questions. Before that, I will inform the students there are two things. One is we are collecting feedback of this session itself, so I will be putting the form link in the chat. So please fill the form for that. Another thing is currently we have a grant application open where the innovative products or the startups can apply, and there are two types of grants for which you can apply. So just go through the link that I'm pasting here, and whichever applies to you, just apply for the grant itself. Okay. Now coming back to the questions. So right now we have one question from Risha Upadhyay, that how to decide when to stop prototyping.
Okay. How to decide when to stop prototyping? Well, so there are two things that can happen when you prototype. One, you have your users. Let's say you have a close group of 100 or 200 or 500 users. So either most of means more than 3/4 of them will feel good when they see the solution. So that is positively stopping your prototyping. That if more than 3/4 of your users are accepting the solution as that, they are ready to, willing to accept that solution and willing to pay for it, stop there. So that's positively stopping your prototyping process. Number two, which is if you take, do, let's say, couple of prototypes, one or two prototypes initially, you go to your users, less than 1/3 of users accept it, meaning about 60 to 70% of the users are not accepting or relating or are happy with the solution. You need to stop prototyping. The average should be somewhere between 40 to 60% for you to keep improving. The moment it goes below 30%, if the acceptance rate is below 30%, you either change the prototype or you change the solution. So this is where you need to decide when you can stop prototyping. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah. So, yes, we have received the thank you. So I think you have answered the question. If anyone has a question, please post it on the chat or either in the question sections. Uh, in the meantime, there is a question like initially, like you have mentioned that people have to empathize, so they definitely have to first understand their user itself. But in my experience, as well as and speaking with various startup itself, they are not able to define their user itself.
Hmm.
So, is there any process for that? Like, how do you define your user itself? Like, is there any shortcut to that? Like, can you give?
Yeah. So see, there is something called user persona. So you have to create a user persona or user profile. What happens is for every problem you try to solve, um, as I mentioned that to before you create an empathy map, you have to create a profile of your user. Those who are potentially going to use your product, right? If I'm going to make this coffee mug which costs 3,500 rupees, I know that I'm going to go to the people whose monthly income is at least a lakh of a rupee, because a person who earns 5,000 rupees a month will never be able to buy this mug which is 3,000 rupees. So the easiest thing is to first create a persona, a profile of your users, see where you can find them, and then go to them. I strongly believe that if you build a product without understanding your customers' needs, the likelihood of failure is much higher. you know. So probably that can be used, while using the empathy as the first stage.
Okay, that's a good answer. There's another question we have: how to reach the design level with the help of prototype? So,
Okay. So how to reach the design level with the help of prototype? Okay. So now it's a good question. So a lot of times when you have a prototype, um, you do interact with your users, and when you show your prototype to the users, they will give you feedback as to, if I take the same example, because this is the object I have. If the user said that the shape is nice, but I don't like the color, right? So what I'm learning from user feedback is the shape is great, I don't like the color, I might have to change the color. Then my counter question is, so in that case, what color do you prefer? So I'm getting the feedback, shape is great, the color needs to be different. Then the other user might say that, can you make this handle a little smaller? So that's another feedback. Now what am I doing is I'm actually getting design inputs that I have to make. I don't have to make it red, number one, outer design. The shape is good, so I must fine tune the shape. I need to make this a little smaller because that's my feedback from the user. So when you test your prototype, you will get feedback from your users, and basis that you can start making a wireframe or a beta design of your product.
okay, understand. So, I don't think we have like we just got another question. How to connect or find our user at the same time? How to share our idea to implement?
How to connect or find our users at the same time? How to share our idea to implement? Okay, let me break this into two parts. How to connect or find our users. So as I said in, I think, the first question, that the first thing you need to find, the first thing is you need to find a problem. And uh, you see people, on a day to day basis, and the products they use, the processes they use, either at home or at school, at university, at office, in businesses, in society. you know so there are multiple areas for which you can identify problems. Now, how to find users? For that, you first need to think about what is it that you want to do. So the first thing you need to decide is, I want to do something in a, uh agri-tech space, where I want to incorporate technology in agriculture process. Now, the first thing you need to do is, you need to first identify users. Means these are your farmers who use a bit of technology in their process. So now because now you have decided, I want to do something in agri tech in domain. Go to farmers, see what kind of technology they use, how you can incorporate better technology in what they do. So that's how you find users. If you want to sell, let's say if you want to get into kids apparels, where would you go? Would you go to place where you will find young parents because they have young kids? So that's how you identify your users. If you want to sell books, or if you want to come up with an edtech business where you will help school going children in learning maths in a very easy manner, that's edtech, right? Or e-learning. So you need to identify who are school of sort of technology to students. They are already have exposed technology. Or in that case, you also approach because when sell something for kids, it's because who uh, have been using this product, may I interact with you and share my solution. Start with this question, or at a corporate level, you identify area, or groups, or target audience, or segment. You invite them for focused discussions. So you segment your product: where do they live, what do they do, how much they earn, how much they are educated, what kind of professions they are in, where do they go, what is their lifestyle. Basis that, you segment your users, and then you create a focus group and ask them certain questions.
I think you have answered the question very nicely. And so, in interest of the time, we will be closing the session now. I thank you once again for taking this session and
Thank
taking
you.
us through the journey of design thinking. And of course, if there are questions, we will try and connecting those people with you itself, so that they can get a answer directly from you. And I thank all the audience itself for coming here and take during this holiday season itself, joining this and learn from our speaker itself. And in case you have any further future question, do write to us, and we'll try to connect you with our speaker. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Varesh. Thank you.